Hi, it's Tuesday, September 30th, 2025, and this is Darren with an update to Mike's Railroad in one of the western suburbs of Chicago. It's been a little while since I've done a report here, although I've been here a couple of times, but some of the things that I've done in the past weren't very exciting videos, so thought I would bring you up to speed with what's happened since the last time we chatted about Mike's Railroad. First of all of the roadbed was installed for the sidings and so on, and completed all the track work in almost all the locations except way down here where there's a fuel rack, and we'll get to that in a moment. But the track was finished. All the ties have been put in place between all the rail joints, and so they have a nice, better look to them. All the track was painted. I do have expansion gaps around the layout because I do solder the track for smooth looking curves, but as all the trains come off of the straight sections, I do cut a physical gap in each rail. I offset them a little bit, so there's a little bit of expansion and contraction remedy there. Rail does not expand and contract, but benchwork does, wood does, and I don't care if you tell me your house stays at 45% humidity year round, it still moves. And if you think it doesn't, you're probably having problems. But that's one of the things I do. So coming in and out of every curve, there's a set of expansion gaps. And then, of course, each section of track is wired. At this recent trip also, I have all the switch motors put in place, and they're wired. And they go to a device called a switch it, which is a way for the switch machine to communicate with the DCC system. And so you can throw turnouts from your throttle, or ultimately from a panel or a push button on the front of the layout, or from a macro or something like that. This trip was the installation of a lot of the signal circuitry, because the layout will be fully signaled. And so an example of that is down here. These are some of the signal circuits that use sensors as the train goes past, and then this circuitry communicates with the circuits in front and behind them in the previous and following blocks. And so all that is networked together. So you can see that there's wires that run onto the next set of circuits. Also, this trip was starting to think about some of the elements and scenes that Mike's going to have on his railroad. And so because of the size of some of these, I actually had to extend a little bit of bench work in a couple of places. Here's some new pieces over here that were not in before. And a bunch of stuff back over in that area. And then sort of the final thing that happened on this trip was the installation of a lighted switch. This was a device that he found on Amazon, and basically when the layout's on, it lights up. And so it'll be obvious coming into the room that the layout is off, or as you leave, if you glance at it, you'll tell the layout is on. And of course you have sound locomotives, that helps too. So the railroad is essentially a double track around the room. It was planned that way because Mike's not necessarily into operation, but wanted the ability to run longer equipment. And so the curves are wider, and you can easily handle everything from a big boy to long passenger cars, things like that. I'm going to shut the layout off because of the noise. But it's not necessarily designed to be a layout built for operation, although there certainly is some sidings and some operations can occur. It's also loosely based on a lot of the things that Mike was around growing up. His parents were into a meatpacking company, and so there's things like that, Aurora Pack, and several other things like he was involved in the fire department and police department, and so there's scenes pertaining to that around the layout too. And then there's a large lake that's going to be in the middle of this circle that is also reminiscent of some things in the history. So anyway, that's the update for now. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. You'll get the updates whenever I post another video, and usually it's at least several a month. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the next location. Thank you very much. Bye.